I was just supposed to drop off a chicken sandwich. 3 minutes later, they were calling me the one who saved a billion-dollar company. No one at Neuralink Tech headquarters expected that morning to turn into a nightmare. And no one expected the fixer to be a girl in an old hoodie, standing on the wrong floor, holding a food rush delivery bag. 8:03 a.m., New York. Neuralink's central data system, the hub that runs thousands of real-time AI transactions, suddenly crashed. Every screen in the building flashed red. Critical system failure. Emergency security protocol activated. The alarm blared like a fire drill. Engineers were sprinting all over the 32nd floor, known as the company's brain. Inside the glass-walled control room, people were shouting, calling, typing like they were banging out solos in a rock band. On the top floor, Aidan Cole, the CEO of Neuralink, stared at his watch. His face was cold as steel, eyes blank. 5 minutes, Aidan said. If it's not fixed by then, everyone's fired. No one dared to breathe too loud. Aidan Cole, 34, MIT prodigy, known for two things: handling crises faster than a machine and firing people faster than they can swipe their ID badge. While the team scrambled, plugging and unplugging cables like a giant Rubik's Cube, the elevator doors on the 32nd floor suddenly opened with a soft ding. Emma Rivera stepped in. She was 23, faded hoodie, worn-out Converse sneakers. One hand held a food delivery bag, the other her phone with Google Maps open. "Delivery for Aidan Cole?" Emma said loudly, her upbeat tone cutting through the tension. The whole room froze. A few engineers stared like statues. One of them yelled, "You're not allowed up here." "I know, but the elevator brought me here. I'm just trying to find Mr. Aidan Cole to drop off his food." Aidan turned around. His eyes scanned her like an X-ray. "You're late," he said, not even a hint of a smile. "Traffic jam. Also, your security guy wasn't sure if the teriyaki chicken had sesame or not." No one laughed. The air was tight as a stretched wire. Emma glanced at the screens around her. One of them was covered in code, full of errors and red warnings. "Wait. Are you guys trying to overwrite the cache while the system's still processing data?" she asked, tilting her head. One engineer snapped, "So what?" Emma shrugged. "That's like trying to unplug a toaster with a metal fork." Everyone looked around. Someone muttered, "Who the hell is this girl?" Aidan looked at her again. One eyebrow lifted, a rare signal from him. "You know what's going on?" "Maybe. I went to MIT, dropped out, but I did pass systems architecture." The room fell silent again. Someone let out a sharp breath. Aidan crossed his arms. "Fix it. You've got 60 seconds. Seriously, clock's ticking." Emma set the food bag down on a nearby table and walked over to the control screen. Her fingers moved across the keyboard like instinct. She opened a secondary command line, checked the access threads, killed the overwrite process, and typed kill -9, write loop, flush cache, force reboot, backup config. She hit enter. The screen flickered. 3 seconds later, system reboot successful. Data integrity check, 100%. Status stable. The alarm cut off. The red lights turned green. The entire company froze for 1 second, then exploded. She fixed it. No freaking way. How the hell did she do that? Emma turned, picked up the food bag, adjusted her cap. "Okay, teriyaki chicken, no sesame, drinks in the side pocket." She handed the bag to Aidan. He took it, staring at her for a long beat, like he was scanning every pixel of her face. "What's your name?" "Emma Rivera." "Do you want a job?" "I've got a few more orders to deliver," she said, then turned and walked into the elevator. The elevator doors closed. The room went silent again. Aidan walked back to his desk, pulled up the security footage, and rewound to the moment Emma typed in the commands. He watched it once, then again, and again. On the screen, a side angle of the girl in the faded hoodie, curly hair tucked under a cap, focused, decisive. Zero panic. Aidan repeated a name under his breath, like he was saying it to himself. Emma Rivera. Emma stepped out of the building, face as calm as ever, but her mind kept replaying one thing. The look in that man's eyes. The look of someone not used to being surprised. She continued her delivery route, weaving through a few noisy neighborhoods, before circling back to Brooklyn. The cramped third-floor apartment she shared with her mom and little brother still didn't have working heat. She dropped the remaining food bag on the kitchen counter, pulled out the receipt, and let out a dry laugh when she saw the tip. A single penny. Emma wasn't the type to complain, but sometimes she wondered, If her dad hadn't died so young, if her mom hadn't gotten sick, if she hadn't dropped out of MIT to earn money, what would life look like now? Would she be an engineer at a place like Neuralink? Or the one behind the glass, directing chaos like this morning? Her phone buzzed. A text. Unknown number. Can I meet you for 10 minutes? I'm Aiden Cole. Below it, the address of a quiet cafe near the Empire State Building. Emma stared at the screen. She didn't respond right away, but less than 15 minutes later, she was already there. The cafe was quiet, warm yellow light spilling over dark wooden tables. Aiden was already there, a full cup of coffee in front of him. He looked up as she walked in. She pulled out the chair across from him and sat down without waiting to be asked. "Who's paying for this coffee?" she asked flatly. "I am." "Then I'll drink it." Aiden gave a small smile, so subtle most wouldn't catch it. "Do you know what you did this morning?" "Yeah, resuscitated your dying system with a few basic commands." "Don't downplay it. Not one of my top 30 engineers could do what you did." "Maybe they're so advanced they forgot how to think simple." She shrugged. Aiden paused, letting the silence hang. "I looked you up. Emma Rivera, junior year computer science at MIT, perfect scores in systems courses. Then dropped out. Why?" Emma looked at him, eyes sharp. "Because my mom got sick. Hospital bills cost more than tuition, and I chose real people over a piece of paper." Aiden said nothing. He flipped over a business card on the table and slid it toward her. "Neuralink's hiring a systems security lead for our new AI platform. Want to give it a shot?" Emma leaned back in her chair, arms crossed. "I deliver food. I'm used to deadlines that say 30 minutes, not 3 seconds before everything blows up." Aiden didn't answer right away. He pulled out his phone, played the video of her fixing the crash that morning, and placed it in front of her. "You didn't just save the company. You did something the guy who built it, didn't think to do." Emma stared at the screen for a few seconds, then pushed the phone back. "I don't need a job to prove I'm worth something. I need enough money to keep the lights on and buy my mom's meds." Aiden smiled again, this time clearer. "So how much do you need? You asking to buy me or just buy my time?" "Your time. 1 hour. I want you to take on a challenge. Solve it, and whatever you want after that, it's yours." Emma stood, adjusting her cap. 1 hour's fine, but I'm not wearing a blazer, I'm not calling anyone boss, and I'm definitely not drinking this overpriced $10 coffee ever again. "You can bring a sandwich if you want," Aiden said as she turned to leave. She didn't look back, just raised a hand in a casual wave, like they'd known each other in another life. Aiden watched her go, eyes no longer cold. For the first time in years, under the soft cafe lights, he wasn't thinking about numbers or quarterly reports. He was thinking about a girl in a hoodie who walked into his world without asking. Neuralink's 34th floor office sat right on the building's edge, wrapped in floor-to-ceiling glass that looked straight down on Madison Square. That morning, the sky was gray. Snow fell quietly, like chalk dust settling on the windows. Inside, a group of senior engineers sat in silence around a long black wooden table. All eyes were on the large screen at the front of the room, where Emma stood alone. No coat, no laptop bag, nothing with her but a worn-out scrunchie and a faded dry erase marker. But her stance was steady. Looking at her, no one would have guessed she once dropped out of college to deliver food every day. Aiden Cole didn't sit. Arms crossed, he stood by the control panel, like he needed only the slightest excuse to shut the whole trial down. This challenge simulates a system attack through a sandbox vulnerability designed to test rapid response, priority routing, and permission logic, said a silver-haired engineer, his tone textbook flat. Emma gave a small nod. "Does the system simulate cross-thread fault injection?" The younger engineer frowned. "No." "Then this is easier than I thought," she said, stepping up to the digital board. Her marker moved across the screen. No keyboard, no automation tools. Everything was handwritten, every line of pseudocode, every logic symbol. Each step came with clear annotations, explained in a voice so plain and precise that even a brand new hire could follow along. The atmosphere in the room began to shift, first curiosity, then skepticism. But within 2 minutes, every eye was locked on the board, like they were watching a jazz solo being composed live in front of them. Emma stopped after the final line, looked at Aiden. "Done." He said nothing. Another engineer flipped open his laptop, ran the test script. The screen blinked for a few seconds, then displayed the results. Processing efficiency up 18%. Error response time down 52%. No permission leaks. Code's clean. The room went dead silent. Someone let out a sharp breath. Another muttered a quiet wow before they could stop themselves. "Have you worked anywhere before?" the older engineer asked, half curious, half cautious. Emma turned to him. "No, but I've been writing system test modules for open source libraries since I was 17. Aiden stepped closer, eyes still on the screen. "GitHub username?" Emma pressed her lips together. "Rivera_042. But don't bother. I deleted it." Aiden frowned slightly. "Why?" "Because some people on there saw me as just the girl who was too good to be believable. They didn't think that code was mine. I got tired of proving I wasn't cheating." He didn't reply, but his eyes narrowed slightly, like he recognized something personal. After the test, Emma was invited into a small meeting room in the back. Just her, Aiden, and an HR assistant. The assistant handed her a stack of papers: trial contract, temporary access credentials, and a key card printed with her name, for the first time with Neuralink Tech written underneath it. "Do you want to read it over carefully?" Aiden asked. Emma looked at the badge, fingers brushing the edge of the plastic. "No need. I know what I'm signing, but I have one condition." Aiden raised an eyebrow. "No one treats me like an intern. If I prove myself, I want to be evaluated like a real engineer." "You think we offer special treatment here?" "No, but I think there's room for fairness." Aiden studied her for a few seconds, then nodded. "Deal." On her way out, Emma paused in a long hallway lined with framed photos, former engineers and founders who helped build Neuralink's name. Among the serious, polished faces, she spotted an old photo. A younger Aiden, hair longer, head down, washing dishes in an industrial kitchen. The HR assistant noticed her pause, glanced at the photo. Back when he was a kitchen assistant in Houston, before he got the full-ride scholarship to MIT. Emma squinted. He was really a dishwasher? 3 years straight, no one thought he'd end up a CEO. Emma smiled. A real smile. No sarcasm, no hesitation. That night, Emma got home late. Her mom was already asleep. Her little brother was studying. On the table sat this month's utility bill, neatly folded, bold letters across the top. Payment due in 3 days. She pulled the new ID badge from her pocket and set it down next to the bill, then picked up a pen and wrote on the back of the card, "Second chance." Before going to bed, she opened her laptop and logged into an old account, one that had been in stealth mode for the past 3 years. The GitHub page for Rivera042 came up. Hundreds of lines of code, dozens of small projects, still there, untouched. Emma looked at the bio at the top. Code like the whole world is waiting to prove you wrong. She didn't change it. She just added one new line, "I'm back." Emma couldn't remember the last time she'd eaten at a proper restaurant. Maybe her little brother's 12th birthday, at a cheap pizza joint with plastic tables and pre-tied balloons. Tonight, she stood outside the glass doors of a French place called La Vieille Lumière. White tablecloths, live piano, like something out of a movie. She wore unripped jeans, a borrowed button-down from her neighbor, and her hair tied up high to hide the fact she hadn't had time to wash it. Her old canvas jacket drew a look from the host, polite, but clearly thinking she was on the wrong floor. "Sorry, deliveries go through the back," one of them said gently, but firmly. Emma crossed her arms and tilted her head slightly. "I'm here to meet Aiden Cole. He has a reservation." The host's expression shifted instantly. Another staff member stepped in. "Right this way, ma'am." They led her to a mezzanine level, to a small corner table with a view of the entire restaurant. Soft golden lights. Waiters moving like dancers. Aiden was already seated, wearing a crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled just enough to show a platinum watch. "You're right on time," he said as she sat down. "The bus wasn't late. Just lucky," Emma said, pulling out her chair without bothering with the napkin like everyone else around them. A waiter brought over the menu. She skimmed it. Dish names as long as full sentences. Prices that made her wish she'd eaten at home. "Do they have burgers?" she asked. Aiden smirked. "You could try the slow-cooked duck, but if you want a burger, I'll have the kitchen make one special." Emma gave a half smile. "I was kidding, I think." They ordered. She let him pick the wine. Once the waiter walked away, Aiden leaned in, elbows on the table, looking at her like he was trying to debug a piece of stubborn code. Why did you say yes to this? Because you sent a message with a question mark emoji, like you were in trouble. I was curious. Didn't know CEOs used emojis. Aiden laughed softly, for the second time in 3 days. Emma, have you ever thought about going back to school? He asked, his tone shifting. Sure. Every time my bank account gets frozen. You could go back with a scholarship, or skip it altogether. Neuralink has an opening for subsystem lead. You're qualified. Emma stayed quiet for a few seconds. She poured water from the glass carafe, took a small sip, then looked him straight in the eye. So this is a disguised job interview? No, it's dinner. But if you want, I can turn it into an interview. Then let me ask you instead, why did you invite me? Aiden looked down at the table for a slow beat, then back up. Because you're different from everyone I deal with daily. Direct, unimpressed by power or reputation, and because when the whole room froze, you were the only one who stepped up and fixed it. Emma leaned back in her chair, exhaling. I used to be obsessed with grades, awards, rankings, until my dad died of a stroke. That was the first time I realized none of those accomplishments could keep someone from leaving. Aiden nodded slightly. I know that feeling. Emma narrowed her eyes. Do you? You don't exactly look like someone who's ever failed. Before I built Neuralink, I got turned down by 3 major investors, slept in my car for a month, washed dishes in Texas to pay off school debt. Head chef used to call me soft hands, but I learned how to take the heat. You know how to cook? Not as well as my mom, but well enough not to burn the place down. Emma actually laughed. The food arrived, so beautifully plated she hesitated to touch it. Aiden ate with the ease of someone raised around silver cutlery. She, on the other hand, used her knife like she was peeling an apple. You make me feel more at ease than anyone in a suit who sat across from me in the last 3 years, Aiden said, eyes still on her. Emma paused, tilting her head slightly. Are you flirting with me? No, I'm being honest. Well, honestly, I'm not great at these kinds of situations. I'm blunt, sometimes a little rough, and I don't like reading between the lines. Then I'll be direct. Neuralink needs someone like you. Not because you fixed the system, but because I believe if anyone's got the guts to handle the next crisis, it's you. She set down her fork and knife, leaning forward. Can I pay for this dinner myself? You can, but I'll cover it if you give me a nod. Emma smiled. I'll think about it, but there's one thing I'm sure of. What's that? Next time you want to impress a girl who's eaten instant noodles 5 days straight, don't pick a restaurant with a name I can't pronounce. Aiden laughed. Neither of them looked at their phones. Neither checked the time. By the time they stepped outside, the sidewalk was blanketed in snow. He walked her to the door, not offering a car, just saying one thing. If you say yes, 9 a.m. tomorrow. Floor 35. Emma gave a small nod. And if I don't show up, then I'll personally bring you a sandwich and ask you to fix the system all over again. She turned and walked away, but couldn't help smiling at that. Inside, something unfamiliar stirred. Not a crush, trust. Something she thought she'd locked away a long time ago. On the 35th floor of Neuralink, the lights in the main hall were on early. The space had been cleared, rigged with new projectors, and divided into technical stations, each with its own screens, backup servers, and a countdown clock. Outside the glass walls, snow still fell in soft silence. Inside, the pressure was building like a sealed boiler. This wasn't a regular hackathon. It was the trial run for Neuralink's new AI security framework, the flagship product set to debut before global investors. 6 teams of engineers had been handpicked from across departments. The 7th team had only one member, Emma Rivera. She walked into the hall with her coat neatly folded, hair tied high, eyes still shadowed with the fatigue of 3 straight nights of research. The other participants glanced her way, curious, skeptical. No one said a word, but the tension in the air was sharp like static before a storm. At the front, Aiden Cole appeared on cue, holding a tablet and a few documents. He scanned the teams, pausing a second longer on Emma than anyone else. He didn't say a word, just gave a nod. Rules are simple, the lead engineer called out. Each team has 2 hours to find and patch simulated vulnerabilities in the AI system. Every correctly identified and resolved issue earns points. The clock starts now. The alarm rang out. The countdown began. and the room erupted into a frenzy of keystrokes. Emma sat down, powered up her machine, and entered the system simulator. Everything looked fine, until she noticed something off. Some of the core code had been altered. Emma immediately opened her private notes, the ones she'd spent 3 nights building, and began comparing the lines, one by one. At least 3 structural components had been subtly modified, just enough to break compatibility with the test cases she'd prepped. She didn't panic, but her grip on the mouse tightened. At the back of the room, a tall woman in a sharp black suit stood with arms crossed near the control desk. Blonde hair curled just enough to look effortless. That was Vanessa Blake, Director of Systems Engineering. She led Neuralink's core security team and was one of the most respected names in the company. Emma had heard of her. The stories varied. Some said Vanessa once worked for DARPA. Others claimed she turned down offers from both Google and Tesla to join Neuralink. And there were quieter rumors about her and Aiden, nothing confirmed. No one dared ask. Vanessa's gaze didn't leave Emma for the first 30 minutes. It wasn't disdain, it was a warning. Emma pivoted fast. She scrapped the scripts she had spent nights preparing and started building a new manual testing framework from scratch. Each line of code came out like muscle memory. No lookups, no hesitation. 1 hour passed. One of the nearby teams found the first major bug. Cheers broke out around their station. Their score flashed on the leaderboard. Emma still hadn't scored a single point. She's overwhelmed. A young engineer on Team 3 whispered, "Fixing a system once doesn't mean you're built for the long game." Vanessa walked past Emma's desk, stopping for just one breath. "Looks like you weren't prepared enough, Emma," she said softly, voice flat. Emma didn't look up. Preparation is for what you can predict. The real test is when everything changes. Vanessa gave a slight smile and kept walking. Emma tightened her fingers slightly, but showed no reaction. She kept typing, every keystroke a quiet answer to those who had deliberately altered the code before the test. Final 15 minutes. Suddenly, a ripple spread through the room. One of Emma's newly written scripts triggered something big. She had uncovered a vulnerability none of the other 5 teams had touched, a flaw in the AI's self-learning mechanism when exposed to noisy data. The scoreboard updated, plus 50 points. Emma's one-woman team jumped from last place to second. Vanessa narrowed her eyes and stepped toward Aiden at the control station. "You knew this would happen. She's capable. No one touches system code outside your division." "You mean me? I mean, whoever did it should be ready for the outcome." Vanessa turned away, face unreadable. Final 2 minutes. Emma found one more bug, small but surgical. It only triggered when the system processed 3 programming languages simultaneously. She documented it, patched the hole, submitted the report. The alarm sounded. The test was over. Each team was called up to present. Emma went last. She didn't use slides, just opened her code, pointed to 3 lines, the exact ones that derailed the logic flow, and said, "If a smart system can't recognize when it's being misled, then it's not really smart." Silence. Aiden stepped forward, holding the mic. He didn't glance at the scoreboard. He looked straight at Emma. Final results were based on number of bugs found, complexity, and patch time. He paused. Top performer, Emma Rivera. The applause rose, not loud but distinct. A few exchanged glances. A few nodded. Emma bowed her head slightly. No smile, but her eyes caught the light like someone who'd just solved a Rubik's Cube everyone else had called unsolvable. Vanessa didn't move. Her gaze stayed sharp and cold. She didn't speak, but Emma knew. The villain had revealed herself, and the real game had only just begun. 2 days after the competition, Emma received a message from Aiden. No subject, no context, just, "Tonight, rooftop, bring a jacket." She hesitated for a few minutes, then went, because something in his eyes the moment he'd announced her win told her this wasn't just about beating Vanessa. That was only chapter 1. What was growing between her and Aiden? Maybe, just maybe, it deserved a chance. January in New York isn't cold in the usual way. It creeps in slow, slides under your skin, and settles deep, like it's trying to touch your spine. And yet that night, Emma Rivera sat on the rooftop of Neuralink's tower, wrapped in an old wool scarf, hands around a cup of hot cocoa made by Aiden Cole himself. No fireplace, no luxury lounge chairs, just 2 metal folding seats, a weathered aluminum table, and a sky full of stars casting shadows over the glow of the city. When I was a kid, Aiden said, leaning back, I'd sit on the roof whenever my parents fought. I used to think, if I could talk to the stars, maybe they'd treat me better than people did. Emma took a sip of cocoa, eyes fixed on the hazy streak of the Milky Way above. I used to sit in the bathroom, door locked. At least people had to knock before coming in. They both laughed softly. The wind threaded through the gaps between buildings, carrying the distant sounds of honking horns and late-night footsteps. It had been nearly a week since the hackathon. Emma was now an official engineer, granted full system access, and moved into a private office with a view of the Hudson. The new title came fast. But whatever was happening between her and Aiden unfolded at a different pace, quiet, steady, and hard to define. Aiden wasn't the flirting type. But he started showing up in the small details. A coffee, just the way she liked it, already on her desk each morning. A message asking if she'd eaten. Feedback that used to come out cold, now softened slightly when she was around. And then, that night, he asked her up to the rooftop, without context. "You're not worried I'll take it the wrong way?" Emma asked, her eyes drifting down to the glowing grid of windows below. "I think you're smart enough to take it the right way." Aiden replied. She laughed. "I'm not AI. I still have emotional bugs." He didn't argue. Instead, he pulled a small box from his jacket. Not to give to her, just to set it on the table between them. "Want to play a game?" Aiden said. "What kind of game?" "In this box are 3 puzzle pieces. You have to guess what they form before opening it. If you're right, I'll tell you a secret no one else at the company knows." Emma raised an eyebrow. "Are you trying to invent some kind of bonding game?" "No. I'm testing whether you notice the things most people miss." She studied the box for a long moment, turning it slowly in her hands. "A wooden robot," she said at last. "Assembled by hand. Movable joints, but missing eyes." Aiden smiled. "Close." She opened the box. Inside were 3 small wooden pieces, intricately carved, each one shaped oddly but precisely. "When assembled," he said, "form a walking human figure, but the head is hollow. No eyes, no mouth, no direction." Emma ran her fingers over the grooves and joints. "What's the meaning?" Aiden looked up at her, this time with nothing hidden. "That was me, before I met you." The wind swept through again, colder this time. But inside her something warmed. Not because of his words, but because of what came after. The silence. The way Aiden looked at her like he had more to say, but chose to let her speak first. Emma exhaled slowly. "I had a version like that too, except mine was running from the past, from responsibility, from myself." She paused, but then someone put a hand on my shoulder and said, "It's okay to stop for a moment." That someone was you. Aiden said nothing, but when he leaned forward, not to kiss her, just to gently touch the fabric of her shoulder, like he needed to confirm she was really there, Emma didn't pull away. "You know," Aiden said softly, "I used to believe I didn't have time to love. Everything had to be measured, calculated, but you showed up like a command line I didn't write. And I'm the system error," she said, half teasing. "No," Aiden said. "You're the unexpected update, and I've never seen a version that made the system run smoother." Emma laughed, shaking her head. "You know, if you weren't a CEO, you could write for romance movies." "I hate romance movies." "Same." They fell into silence. The city below kept moving, horns, lights, lives. But up here, it was just the 2 of them, 2 cooling cups of cocoa and a wooden box with 3 unfinished pieces. Emma stood first. "I don't know where we're going, but I know I'm not interested in going back." Aiden nodded. "Me neither." As she walked toward the rooftop door, he called out, "Don't come into work early tomorrow." "Why not?" "Because I want to bring your coffee myself. And maybe one more puzzle piece." Emma didn't answer, but when the door shut behind her, Aiden saw it, reflected in the rooftop glass, a small smile. The truest one yet. Friday night. Floor 35 was almost entirely dark, except for the glow from one room at the far end, the engineering office, where Emma Rivera sat alone, eyes fixed on 3 monitors, twirling a pencil through her fingers like she always did when her brain was running too fast to slow down. On the main screen, the first draft of a brand new AI platform, something she and Aiden had been quietly building since that night on the roof. No big announcement, no formal team, no bold subject lines, just shared files, edits, comments, quiet, precise, in sync. But tonight, for the first time, Aiden hadn't replied. No message, no call. Only a short email from his assistant. He's taking a few days off, no contact. Emma wasn't surprised, but she still felt that small drop, like writing flawless code, only for the test run to throw an error with no explanation. She closed her laptop and left the office. No cab, no rush home. Instead, she walked along the Hudson, where city lights danced on the river's surface like duplicated data. Familiar, repeating, never quite original. That night, she returned to her small Brooklyn apartment. Her mother was awake, recovering well from her latest treatment. Her brother was back in school. All of it, peaceful, stable, moving forward, was the product of choices Emma never saw coming when she made them. On the table sat the USB Aiden had given her. She hadn't opened it. Beside it, a formal offer letter for the lead architect position on Neuralink's new project. One signature away from an official title, full authority, higher pay, and a shot at becoming a name that echoed in the tech world. She picked up the paper, put it down, picked it up again. This time there was no script to run, no bug to isolate, just her and a choice. Near midnight, a new email came in. From an anonymous address. Subject, if you still believe in what we're building, meet me. No message body. Just a set of coordinates. A small pier south of Manhattan. No signature, but she knew exactly who it was from. The next morning, light rain. Emma wore a waterproof jacket, hair tied back clean, and carried, not her laptop, but a sketch pad. Inside, hand-drawn diagrams of a system she and Aiden had only spoken of in fragments. An emotional intelligence framework, a blueprint with no official name, yet. She arrived at the pier at 8:02 a.m. No one was waiting, just a wooden bench, and on it a small paper box tied with coarse brown string. Inside, a handwritten letter. You saved a system, and then you saved me. But what I want you to build isn't a platform. It's a space you believe in, one that doesn't depend on anyone else. If you choose to stay, the sketch in your hands will be chapter 1. If you walk away, I believe you'll still make wherever you land better, in a way only you can. No signature. No hint at what came next. Emma sat on the bench. She read the letter again, slower this time. And for the first time she cried. Not out of sentiment, but because she finally understood. There was no wrong choice here. Only the need to be honest with herself about what she wanted. An hour later, Emma walked back into the office. She placed the sketch pad on Aiden's desk. Didn't sign the contract. Didn't reject it either. She simply wrote one line across the front of the stack. I'll build it. But not just for the company, for the ones who never got the chance to build anything. She walked out of the office and into the street, disappearing into the crowd like she hadn't just changed the course of something bigger than herself. But in her mind, the next step was already clear. And this time it didn't need approval from any CEO. You've just witnessed what looked like a real-life fairy tale, but the truth is, it was entirely real. A food delivery girl with a future once left behind. A CEO known for being cold and untouchable, and a tech system on the verge of collapse. All of them collided, at the exact right moment, and created something no one could have predicted. You don't have to be the best. You don't have to be perfect. Sometimes, all it takes is the courage to walk into the right mistake. And you'll become the answer the world didn't know it was waiting for. If you believe that everyone has a story worth telling, and that anyone can be the main character of their own life, subscribe to Love Stories now. Hit the bell so you don't miss the next unexpected, moving, twist-filled story we have for you. Love Stories, where emotions speak louder than words. See you in the next chapter.